Catus Maximus here, this time reviewing the Titan powder-coated, chrome-plated, long-handle hex and star wrench set. The Imperial and metric hex wrench sets are just standard. They're not security with the holes drilled in them, although the star wrench set is security, and it does have the security holes drilled into it. The fractional or Imperial set and the star set are both 13 pieces, and then you get a 9-piece metric set, or a total between the 3 sets of 35 wrenches. I do have some of the early first generation Titan powder coated wrenches off to the left, and we'll compare the newer ones to those. These are still really excellent and some of the best you can find in stores. With the long handle and the chrome and the nice bright colored powder coated finish, they really are nice in any toolbox and easy to find and grab. If you drop it somewhere, it's a little easier to locate than the traditional black carbon finish hex wrenches. All 3 of these come in these flat type holders here. In the Imperial or fractional, we have from 50 thousandths to 3/8. In the star, we have from T6 through T50, so a real nice range on those. And then in the 9-piece metric, it goes from 1.5 millimeter through 10 millimeter. So these are what would be considered the standard sets. To find larger or smaller wrenches, you kind of have to buy specialty sets or buy them individually, especially when you're going larger. Oftentimes you can find a small hex key wrench set, but the larger ones have all had to be pieced together. Let's go ahead and look at these red ones a little closer. I can get the zoom to work here. So here's the laser etching. They laser etch most of the larger sizes, like on this fractional, they'll etch all the way down to the 1/8 inch, but you can see it gets pretty small in 1/8 inch, and then they don't etch any of the really small ones. The etching is pretty sharp and came out pretty well, but you can see on some of the wrenches, like on this 5/16, where the laser was set to simply too much power, and it started to burn the paint all around where it's etching. You can see how the end is distorted. And I make a mention of that because when you laser etch something, you expect it to be total perfection. And so that's not a big deal on Allen wrenches, but they didn't have this issue on the older ones, and I'll show you that in a minute. Another thing I wanted to point out is on these new ones, every once in a while, some of the wrenches, the powder coating didn't stick to it, and so you get some of these blank areas, and so that kind of ruins the overall finish when most of these are just really nice, perfect powder coating with a nice tight edge. I wouldn't say it's the thickest, but it's pretty good. And then you'll run into one that's like that. Now, these will inevitably get dinged up, of course, but when they're new, you like to see them have a real good fit and finish. You can see on the smallest one here where the powder coating and it totally missed down there. The wrenches are generally pretty straight. Sometimes a couple of these smaller ones get a little bit bent, but otherwise they're really nice. Let's take a closer look at the rest of these sets here. These are they're known as pin and socket, star or Torx drive, and I really like the bright green. If you ever drop one of these, it's very easy to find these. I like that they have really thick shanks compared to the Torx drive that they're running, so that they're actually pretty strong, and I really did appreciate that. Sometimes I've seen these wrenches where they make them a little bit thin, but these are really nice thick bodied wrenches. And we can see where they had some of the same type of powder coating issue, but it's not a big deal. These holders did have the word Titan on the front and like this bubble, kind of like a thick plastic sticker, and it was just peeling up on all of them, so I took it off. So the sticker doesn't stay on very good. And let's take a quick look at these metric ones. There we go. The laser etching on the metric ones came out really nice. You can see each wrench is perfect, nothing's burned. The powder coating on these metric ones there's a little bit of bleeding there, but that's what's nice about these Titans, and particularly the first generation ones, is that there was good quality control. Each wrench was almost individually just perfect, no kind of little bugs that you could pick out. These are all ball and hex wrench sets, and we'll show how that works. If we take such as these 4 millimeter. Ball and wrenches are designed to where you break the fastener with the wrench, and then you go ahead and use the little ball end, and it has a little cutout, and it allows you to unscrew the fastener a little easier because the wrench can swivel around. The general recommendation is not to break fasteners with the ball ends because of this little turn down area. They have a lot less strength, and when they break, they'll break right there at the base of the ball, and then the ball will become stuck in the fastener like so. And because you are torquing really hard, the sharp rounded edge will kind of bite and the ball will become stuck. It won't just break off where you can magnet it out. You got to fiddle with it with a pick to get the little piece out. And so that can be very frustrating. So generally avoid breaking fasteners with the ball ends. If we're going to compare these against standard length, here is a Bond Huss. If you're ordering online or if you spend just a little bit more money, I would recommend the Bond Husses. Bond Husses is an institution in hex wrenches. But if we compare against the standard length, there we go. It's proportional. They're about 15% longer, so on this large 3/8 we get about 2 more inches of length. So that does give you a bit of extra torque. You can feel them flex a little more, but they're still plenty strong. It doesn't feel like they'll bend on you unless you're working with some of the toughest fasteners. And really that's what would set apart a Bond Huss from such as a Titan, is only under the most extreme conditions where this would take just a bit more torque before permanently bending, where the Titan would take just a little bit less. And that's just the price point that these are at. These are I think $20 a set, which is really excellent for all the work, the chrome plating and the powder coating and the laser etching. Where on a Bond Huss, your money is really going to just raw material quality and purity and phenomenal, well-controlled heat treatments. Now, if we were to compare these to, say, their older brethren, the first generation Titans, let's go ahead and pull these. The first generation actually came in this more compact case, and I appreciated that more because it made it a little easier to deal with than having a really wide flat, because the wrenches tend to get a little dinged up when the little ones are hanging out off that edge in the toolbox. They want to get caught on stuff and get all bent up. This way, the wrenches have a little bit of support from the larger ones behind them, so I did want to mention that. Plus, they had this nice hole to hang them from things. Let's pull out one of these wrenches. And if we compare first to second generation, let's get some zoom here. Come on. There we go. So the first generation Titans versus the second generation Titans, you can tell that they put a trademark on the first generation ones where they omitted that on the second. I don't know if that was just accidental or if they actually lost their trademark. If we take a closer look, we can see that the older ones are a true full polish chrome, where you have a more of a satin finish on the second generation ones, and it's just not quite as thick. You can tell that it's not as thick because you can see how sharp the edges are. You can really see the sharp reflection just right here on the camera, where the thicker chrome plating of the older ones rounded that sharpness off just a little bit more. So they do look a little bit prettier. You can also see that how much thicker the powder coating was on the old ones. So the powder coating is about half the thickness on the new ones as the old ones, because you can see in the old ones, you can see just the shadow, how deep that laser etching really is compared to the second generation ones. And we'll go up to this end. The other nice aspect is you can really just see how it almost looked like they taped each one of these, or they had some kind of special holder to really make sure the powder coating had a nice tight edge. And that didn't work out quite as well in the second generation ones. And here you can also see evidence of just how thick the powder coating was. So anyway, I had purchased this new set because I wanted these green ones, and they had a real special deal. It was, I think it was some kind of coupon. It was like $45 or $48 for all 3 sets. So I went ahead and did it, and thought, since I like these Titans so much, and I know they weren't quite as good as a Bond Huss, that I just have a spare set so I could have ones that I would just use and beat up, and I still have a kind of a much nicer set for the collection. And thought I could do a review and comparison, and so you guys could actually see how good the Titans are and how good they really were, and how it seems just about every tool company comes out and really tries hard, and then when they get sales, they have to balance out the cost of manufacturing or the rising employment costs, and it often shows up in tools and sometimes real subtle ways, like thickness of powder coating and the consistency of laser etching all means making a slightly cheaper tool than what they used to be. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Catus Maximus out.